What if rejection was not a final, damning verdict on your worth, but simply a neutral redirection for your path? What if the paralyzing fear of hearing no was a psychological cage whose door has been unlocked the entire time, and you simply needed to realize that action is the key? Today, we learn not just to face this fear, but to conquer it by walking straight through it with Stoic courage. Conquer fear of rejection through Stoic action, compiled and published by Stoic Power. Lesson 1. Understanding rejection without ego. Imagine a skilled and seasoned actor auditioning for a major role in a play. He enters the room, delivers his lines with passion, skill, and complete commitment, and then he leaves. Later, he learns that he did not get the part. The novice actor, whose entire sense of self is tied to his success, would be crushed. He would experience this rejection as a profound and personal verdict on his talent, his worth, and his entire being. The master actor, however, understands the nature of the game. He knows that the casting decision is a complex alchemy of factors completely outside of his control. His height, the director's specific vision, the chemistry with another actor, 100 different variables. The inner conflict for us is that when we face rejection in our own lives, we are almost always the novice actor. We see the no not as a circumstance, but as a judgment on our very soul. The painful and deeply ingrained problem is that we experience rejection as a devastating and humiliating blow to our ego. We ask someone on a date and are turned down, and the story we tell ourselves is not, "Her preference was for something else, but I am undesirable." We apply for a promotion and don't get it, and our internal narrative is not, "Another candidate was a better fit for the role at this time," but "I am incompetent and a failure." We fuse the external event of the rejection with an internal, catastrophic judgment about our fundamental worth. This makes rejection feel like an existential threat, a monster to be avoided at all costs. This fear of having our ego wounded is what paralyzes us and prevents us from taking the very risks that are necessary for growth, for love, and for a life of meaning. The transformative solution is to learn to separate our fragile, constructed ego from the neutral, external event of rejection. It is the art of seeing the no not as a personal verdict, but as a simple, impersonal piece of data. The core Stoic idea that makes this possible is the foundational principle that it is not events that harm us, but our judgments about them. Rejection is a neutral event. It is an external reality that is, in itself, as meaningless as a rock falling or the wind blowing. All of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the shame associated with rejection comes from our internal judgment, our voluntary assent to the thought, "This means I am worthless." The Stoic warrior trains himself to challenge this judgment at the gate of his mind. He learns to see rejection simply as information that indicates a lack of alignment between his offering and the other party's needs. Nothing more. The benefit of this is that it robs rejection of its power to wound you. It takes the venom out of the sting. This allows you to act with a new level of courage and freedom, knowing that while the outcome is uncertain, your core self-worth is never on the line. The actionable step to begin this practice is the Objective Reframe Journal. The next time you face a rejection, or as you reflect on a past one that still stings, take out a piece of paper. Draw a line down the middle. On the left side, under the heading The Emotional Story, write down the painful, ego-based narrative you have been telling yourself. E.g., "She rejected me, which proves I'm not attractive and I'll be alone forever." On the right side, under the heading The Objective Fact, write down the event in the most boring, neutral, and factual language possible. E.g., "I asked this person on a date and she declined the invitation." Then, consciously choose to accept only the right-hand column as reality. Read it over and over. The left-hand column is a work of fiction you have written. By practicing this separation, you are training your mind to stop catastrophizing. You are learning to see the event without the ego's dramatic interpretation. I urge you to try this with one past rejection. See how it changes the feeling of the memory. Understanding rejection rationally is the first step, but to truly conquer the fear, we must build the inner strength to endure it. Our next lesson is on building that strength through trials. Before we continue, please subscribe to the Stoic Power channel to commit to this journey of building an unbreakable mind. Lesson 2. Building inner strength through trials. Imagine a blacksmith in his forge, tasked with creating an unbreakable sword. He does not take the raw iron and wrap it in soft cloth, protecting it from all stress and impact. To do so would be to create a useless, brittle blade. Instead, he does the opposite. He thrusts the iron into the searing heat of the fire, then pulls it out and hammers it violently on the anvil. He repeats this process over and over. The stress of the fire, the shock of the hammer, the cooling in the water. It is this very process of enduring repeated, controlled trials that removes the impurities from the metal and aligns its internal structure, transforming it from a weak piece of iron into a sword of legendary, tempered steel. The inner conflict we face is that we want the unbreakable strength of the tempered sword, but we spend our lives trying to protect ourselves like a fragile piece of glass. The painful problem is that we try to build our confidence and our inner strength by systematically avoiding all trials, all risks, and all possibilities of rejection. We believe that a life free from failure is the path to a strong self-esteem, but this is a profound and dangerous misunderstanding. A life without trial does not make us strong, it makes us incredibly brittle and fragile. Our confidence is a house of cards, based on an unbroken string of safe experiences. The moment we face our first real, involuntary trial, a real rejection, a real failure, we shatter, because we have no experience of enduring a blow and surviving. Our avoidance of the forge has left us soft, weak, and terrified of the first sign of a fight. The transformative solution is to stop avoiding the forge and to start seeing every small, manageable risk of rejection as a necessary and welcome opportunity to temper the steel of our character. The core Stoic idea is that resilience is a muscle, and like any muscle, it can only be built through progressive resistance. You cannot build a strong bicep by only ever lifting a feather. You must challenge it with a weight that is difficult but manageable. The Stoics saw all of life's difficulties in this light. They believed that voluntary exposure to small, manageable trials and risks is the resistance training that builds our spiritual and psychological strength, preparing us to handle the larger, unavoidable trials of life. The benefit of this is that you build an authentic, earned confidence. It is a confidence born not of wishful thinking or positive affirmations, but of the direct, undeniable physical evidence of your own courage. You know you can handle rejection because you have a long track record of having handled it. The fear of no begins to lose its power over you because you have willingly exposed yourself to it and have seen that it is survivable. The actionable step to begin this forging process is the rejection workout. Just like you would go to the gym, you must schedule a workout for your resilience muscle. This week, your task is to choose one small, low-stakes action that carries a minor but real risk of rejection. The goal of this workout is not to get a yes. The goal is simply to endure the trial and to prove to yourself that you can survive a no. Examples could be asking for a small discount on a coffee, giving a stranger a sincere and respectful compliment, pitching a small, low-stakes idea to your boss, or asking a question in a large meeting. Choose your exercise and then do it. When you do it, focus on the act of courage itself. Afterward, whether you got a yes or a no is completely irrelevant. The victory was in taking the action. By doing this, you are the blacksmith, hammering your own soul into something stronger. I challenge you to schedule your first rejection workout this week. Begin the process of tempering your own steel. The key to this workout is learning to embrace the feeling of discomfort. How do we turn this feeling from a stop sign into a compass? Our next lesson explores this very idea. If you are ready to build your strength in the forge, please like this video. Lesson 3. Embracing discomfort as a teacher. Imagine an oyster living its life on the ocean floor. One day, an irritating grain of sand, a foreign object, gets inside its shell. This is a moment of profound discomfort. The oyster's first instinct might be to resist this feeling, to try and expel the irritant. But it cannot. The discomfort is now a part of its reality. At this point, the oyster has a choice. It can live in a state of perpetual irritation, chafed and wounded by this unwelcome guest. Or it can begin a slow, miraculous, and transformative process. It can begin to embrace the source of its discomfort, coating the irritating grain of sand with layer after patient layer of a beautiful, iridescent substance called nacre. Over time, it transforms the source of its greatest discomfort into its most beautiful creation, a pearl. The inner conflict for us is that when we feel the sharp, irritating discomfort of the fear of rejection, we see it only as a negative signal to be avoided. The painful problem is that the feeling of discomfort that arises before we take a social risk, the churning stomach, the racing heart, the dry mouth, is so unpleasant that we retreat back to safety and comfort. We interpret this discomfort as a stop sign, a clear warning from our body that we should not proceed. We believe that the absence of this feeling is the goal. This makes us prisoners of our own comfort zone. We avoid any action that might provoke this feeling, which means we avoid all the actions that are necessary for our growth, for building relationships, and for living a courageous life. We are the oyster that refuses to engage with the grain of sand, and so we never create the pearl. The transformative solution is to radically reframe our relationship with this feeling. It is to learn to see the discomfort of fear not as a stop sign, but as a teacher, a signal, and even a compass pointing us directly toward the action we most need to take. The core Stoic idea is the practice of voluntary discomfort. The Stoics knew that a person who is a slave to their own comfort is not a free person. By willingly and intentionally leaning into moments of manageable discomfort, we harden ourselves against the unpredictable fortunes of life. We inoculate ourselves against fear. When you deliberately embrace the discomfort of a potential rejection, you are teaching your nervous system that this feeling is not a true threat. It is just a sensation, and it is survivable. You are turning the poison into medicine. The benefit of this is that the feeling of fear loses its power over you. You stop being a person who is controlled by the need to avoid discomfort. You become a person who is guided by their values and their purpose. This is the definition of true courage. The actionable step to practice this is to use the discomfort compass. From now on, when you feel that familiar, uncomfortable sensation of fear or hesitation before taking a necessary action, you will not retreat. Instead, you will pause, acknowledge the feeling, and use it as a compass. You will say to yourself, there is the feeling of discomfort. This is not a stop sign. This is a compass needle pointing directly north toward the action that will make me stronger. Then your job is to take just one small, immediate step in the direction that the compass is pointing. By leaning into the discomfort just a little bit, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your fear. You are the oyster, beginning the process of coating the irritant with the nacre of your courage. I urge you to try this the next time you feel the fear of rejection. Let the discomfort be your guide. Follow your compass north. This courage is only possible if it is built on a foundation of self-worth that is not dependent on the outcome. How do we build that? Our next lesson is on defining worth beyond validation. Please comment below and share one area of your life where your discomfort compass is pointing. Lesson 4. Defining worth beyond validation. Imagine the sun, a magnificent star radiating its own immense light and heat from the powerful nuclear fusion happening at its own core. Its worth, its value, its very nature is intrinsic and self-generated. Now imagine the moon. It is a beautiful and inspiring object in the night sky, but its light is entirely borrowed. It is a cold, dark rock that is merely reflecting the light of the sun. Its brightness is contingent, dependent, and not its own. If the sun were to disappear, the moon would become invisible. The inner conflict we face is that our fear of rejection is rooted in the fact that we have been taught to build our sense of self-worth like the moon, not like the sun. The painful and deeply ingrained problem is that our self-worth is often conditional and dependent on external validation. We need the yes to feel worthy. We need the other person's approval, the job offer, the acceptance into the social group, to be the sun that illuminates us and makes us feel valuable. This makes us profoundly fragile. When we are rejected, When the external sun turns its light away from us, we are plunged into the cold darkness of our own perceived worthlessness. This is why rejection feels so devastating. It is not just the loss of an opportunity, it feels like the loss of our very self, because our self was nothing more than a reflection in someone else's eyes. The transformative solution is the most profound and essential work a person can undertake. It is to stop being the moon that begs for reflected light, and to start the lifelong project of becoming the sun, of building an internal, unconditional, and self-generated source of your own worth. The core Stoic idea is the profound principle that virtue is the sole good. This means that your true worth as a human being is determined not by your external successes or failures, not by your reputation or the opinions of others, but by the quality of your own character, the integrity of your own choices, and the virtue of your own actions. Your worth is not determined by whether the arrow hits the target, but by the excellence and courage with which you shot the arrow. This is the only thing that is truly yours, and therefore it is the only place a wise person builds their sense of worth. The benefit of this is that you become immune to the existential terror of rejection. Rejection can still be disappointing, but it can no longer be devastating because your core self-worth is never on the line. A no from the outside world can no longer extinguish your inner light because you are the source of your own light. This is the foundation of unshakable confidence. The actionable step to begin this process of becoming your own sun is to start an internal validation journal. At the end of each day, you must ignore all the external feedback you received. Instead, your task is to find and write down one action you took that you respect, completely independent of the outcome or what anyone else thought. Specifically, focus on acts of courage where you faced a potential rejection. For example, today I am proud that I had the courage to ask for that raise, even though the answer was no. My worth is in my courage, not in my boss's decision. Or, I am proud that I spoke my truth in that difficult conversation, even though the other person did not agree with me. This practice retrains your mind to seek validation from your own character, not from the approval of others. You are learning to be proud of your own virtuous actions. I challenge you to find one such moment to record each day for a week. Start the powerful work of generating your own light. When your worth is internal, you are free to act without needing the world's permission. Our next lesson is on the power of taking aligned action without approval. If you are ready to become your own sun, please like this video. Lesson 5. Taking aligned action without approval. Imagine a master archer standing on the field. Her form is perfect, her focus is absolute, her mind is calm. She knows that her task is to shoot the arrow with as much virtue and excellence as she can muster. She is completely and utterly focused on the quality of her own action. Now imagine if, right before she was about to release the arrow, she paused and looked around at the crowd, nervously seeking their approval. Do you all think this is a good idea? Do you approve of my form? Do you think I will hit the target? This hesitation, this need for external permission before acting, would completely destroy her focus, her power, and the quality of her shot. The inner conflict we face is that we are often this hesitant archer. We know what we need to do, but we pause, looking to the crowd for their approval before we are willing to act. The painful problem is that this constant approval seeking is a subtle but powerful form of fear that paralyzes us. We wait for permission from our parents, our partner, our friends, or our society before we take a risk, start a new path, or speak our authentic truth. We are afraid to act on our own authority, based on our own reasoned judgment. This makes us passive and indecisive. We live a life based on a committee vote, not on our own convictions. This not only robs us of our autonomy, but also dramatically reduces our chances of achieving anything great. Because the crowd is almost always risk-averse and prefers the safety of the status quo. The transformative solution is to become the archer who is so focused on the integrity and excellence of their own action that the approval or disapproval of the crowd becomes an irrelevant distraction. It is the practice of taking action that is aligned with your own principles and your own purpose, without needing a green light from anyone else. The core Stoic idea is that a wise person is guided by their own ruling faculty, their hegemonikon. This is your inner center of reason, your personal CEO. To wait for external approval before you act is to outsource the job of your own reason to others. It is to live as a slave to the opinions of the crowd. The Stoic trains himself to be a sovereign individual, to be the king of his own inner kingdom. He takes counsel from others, but the final decision to act and the validation for that action comes from within. The benefit of this is that you become a powerful agent of change in your own life. You stop waiting and you start creating. You build a deep trust in your own judgment and your own ability to navigate the world. This sense of personal authority is profoundly attractive and is the essence of a confident and self-directed life. The actionable step to cultivate this is to take one unapproved action this week. First, identify one small, positive, and virtuous action that is aligned with your goals, but that you have been hesitating on because you are worried about what a specific person or group of people might think. It could be starting a new creative project, signing up for a class, changing your style, or expressing a unique opinion. Then, this week, you must take that action. Your focus during the action should be entirely on the integrity of the act itself and its alignment with your own values, while consciously and deliberately letting go of any concern for how it will be received. This is a powerful exercise in self-trust. You are proving to yourself that you are the ultimate authority in your own life. I urge you to choose your unapproved action. Trust your own ruling faculty. Taking action will inevitably lead to setbacks. How do we reframe these setbacks so they don't trigger our fear of rejection? Our next lesson is on this crucial skill. Please comment below and share one unapproved action you are willing to take. Lesson 6. Reframing setbacks with Stoic calm. Imagine a brilliant alchemist in his laboratory, working on a complex experiment. He mixes two compounds, hoping to create gold, but instead the mixture lets out a puff of black smoke and turns to useless sludge. This is a setback, a rejection of his hypothesis by reality. A novice alchemist would see this as a complete failure. He would feel shame, he would curse his own incompetence, and he might abandon the experiment altogether, his confidence shattered. The master alchemist, however, has a different relationship with failure. He does not see the sludge as a tragedy. He sees it as a valuable piece of data. He looks at it with intense, unemotional curiosity and thinks, "Interesting, that combination did not work. This outcome has taught me something crucial. I am now one step closer to the truth." The inner conflict for us is that when we experience a setback or a rejection, we are almost always the novice alchemist. The painful problem is that we view a rejection as a dead end, a final verdict, a source of shame. We get the pain of the setback without ever extracting the priceless wisdom it contains. We think, "I failed, therefore I am a failure." This toxic framing makes us terrified of trying again. We become so afraid of creating more sludge that we stop experimenting altogether. Our fear of rejection becomes a fear of the very process of trial and error that is essential for any kind of growth or success in life. The transformative solution is to become the master alchemist. It is the art of viewing every rejection and every setback not as a verdict on your worth, but as a valuable and necessary piece of data that can be used to refine your approach and strengthen your character. The core Stoic idea is the famous mantra, "The obstacle is the way." The setback is not a wall that blocks your path. It is a signpost that is redirecting you toward a different path or teaching you how to approach the same path with greater skill and wisdom. To the Stoic, a life without setbacks would be a life without lessons. He therefore sees them not as punishments, but as the curriculum for his education in the art of living. The benefit of this is that you become immune to the sting of failure. You are no longer playing a game of win or lose, but a game of win or learn. This makes you incredibly resilient and persistent. You can take on great challenges without the crippling fear of failure, because you know that even in failure, you will gain the valuable gold of wisdom. The actionable step to practice this alchemical process is the post-rejection debrief. After you have experienced a rejection or a setback, and after the initial emotional sting has passed and your mind is calm, take out your journal. Become the master alchemist and answer these questions. 1. As a dispassionate scientist, what did I learn from this outcome? What did this failed experiment reveal about my process, my assumptions, or my strategy? 2. How can I use this new data to improve my approach for the next attempt? 3. What does this outcome now make possible for me that was not possible before? E.g., this no frees up my time and energy to pursue a different, perhaps better opportunity. This practice transforms you from a victim of your setbacks into a student of them. I challenge you to perform this debrief on a recent setback in your life. Find the lesson in the sludge. This brings us to our final lesson. How do we integrate all of these principles to live a life that is truly and permanently free from the fear of judgment? Our final lesson will explore this ultimate state of being. Please subscribe to the Stoic Power channel to complete this journey. Lesson 7. Living freely from fear of judgment. Imagine a magnificent eagle soaring high above the world on the thermal currents. Its entire being is focused on the art of flight, on its relationship with the wind and the sky. It is living in its own element, guided by its own powerful nature and its own sharp vision. Far, far below on the ground, the creatures of the earth, the sheep, the dogs, the people, look up and judge the eagle. Some may admire its grace, some may fear its power, some may criticize it for being a predator. But the eagle, soaring in the vast silent cathedral of the sky, is utterly and profoundly indifferent to their judgments. It is so consumed by the reality of its own flight, so aligned with its own purpose, that the opinions of the ground dwellers are a faint, irrelevant noise. It lives in a realm where their judgments cannot reach. The final and most aspirational stage of our Stoic journey is to learn to become the eagle. The inner conflict we face is that we are still, on some fundamental level, the ground dweller, constantly looking up at others and constantly looking around to see who is judging us. The painful problem is that as long as our sense of worth and our decisions are in any way hostage to the fear of external judgment, we are not truly free. We will always be trimming our wings to fit inside the cages of social expectation. We will always be hesitant to soar too high, lest we attract criticism. We will always be living a life that is, in part, a performance for an audience of others. This prevents us from achieving our highest potential and from experiencing the profound peace that comes from a life of true authenticity. The transformative solution is the final powerful synthesis of all the lessons we have explored. It is to graduate from being a student of these techniques to becoming a living embodiment of them. It is to live a life so deeply rooted in your own internal compass, so secure in your own self-worth, and so committed to your own virtuous actions, that the fear of external judgment completely loses its power over you. The core idea is the ultimate freedom of the Stoic sage. It is a state where you are no longer just resilient to insults, you are largely indifferent to them. It's not that you don't hear the judgments of others, it's that those judgments have no weight, no substance, compared to the powerful, clear verdict of your own well-trained reason. Your self-worth is 100% generated from within, through your daily commitment to your virtues. The opinions of others, both positive and negative, are then seen for what they truly are: indifference. They are the weather, and you are the sky. The benefit of this is the ultimate prize of all our work, a life of profound peace, unshakable confidence, and authentic, fearless action. You become the sole judge of your own life, the sovereign king of your own inner kingdom. The actionable step to achieve this integration is the sovereign declaration. This is a final personal vow to live your life from the inside out. This is your commitment to becoming the eagle. Write it down. Put it somewhere you will see it every day. It is your personal manifesto of inner freedom. It could be something like this: my worth is determined by my character, not by external opinion. My success is measured by the courage of my actions, not the comfort of their outcomes. I will seek wisdom from others, but I am the sole and final judge of my own life. I will live in accordance with my principles, and I will let the world think what it will. Today, I choose to fly. By reading and internalizing this declaration every day, you are consciously choosing your own freedom. You are reminding yourself of where your true power lies. This is the culmination of your journey. It is the art of conquering the fear of rejection by taking courageous Stoic action until that fear simply withers away from lack of attention. We have journeyed through the 7 great disciplines of the Stoic warrior, from understanding rejection without ego to the final, soaring freedom of living beyond judgment. This path teaches us that the fear of rejection is a cage whose bars are made of our own thoughts, and that the key to unlocking it is the courage to take consistent, virtuous, and self-reliant action, regardless of the outcome. Thank you for taking this time to explore this path to inner freedom and unshakable strength. If this video has served you on your journey, please like this video, comment with your greatest takeaway, and subscribe to the Stoic Power channel for more wisdom on building an unconquerable mind and a life of profound integrity.